on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Really, whatever way you are on the line, on air, all the ways that you can be with us and that works for you is the right place for you to be. Though, few added extra layers as we are at the end of the first week of the year. Yeah, we made it to that first full Friday here in 2023. And boy, has this been another roller coaster week for just a whole lot of reasons, including the fact that even over the weekend, I've said this before, that there's always like a lot of stuff happening over the weekend, which is why we tend to do kind of a week ahead and what has already happened wrap up on Mondays. And yeah, just crank that up to 11, doesn't even count anymore. At 12:50, I don't know, because we got a couple of visits coming to either the border, El Paso specifically in general. Of course, the presidential one that is being very much focused on. The actual itinerary still not totally clear yet when exactly President Biden will be arriving in town, but more details coming out as being reported on by our news partners over at KFOX 14 about what kind of things will be getting seen, including one question that y'all have asked, so we'll get into that here in just a second. Do have a couple of points we'll make before we get into what we usually do for Friday, as Austin Redfern and Amber Banda and Ida Beza Gardner chiming in. Austin Redfern, happy Friday indeed, because this is that time of the week when we get into it, and in all the ways that means. So I'm definitely going to be talking about some of the things that are still absolutely going to be affecting us here, because this stuff is still developing. But otherwise, don't worry, we're still on track to be doing the open lines free-for-all Friday as we do. Bernadette Bandicole, good afternoon to you as well. Thank goodness it's Friday indeed, because yeah, we'll be taking y'all's comments and calls throughout both hours of the program as much as we can cram in, besides mentioning some pretty important things and how, from what I am seeing so far, I'm just going to call it that trying to get around downtown / South Central El Paso might not be the best plan for you this coming weekend, as we're looking at some of the details from both this visit and then there's being more planned, including coming up on Monday. So there's a lot going on, still affecting our region. A lot of national eye is going to be on us yet again. So let's delve into that. But also all the other things, open lines, free for all, means that we will take on all of the subjects. Just keep it clean, because we don't want to end up being no longer able to do this. And that's really, I guess, the kind of other focus I am. I sometimes get accused of not taking a stand, but being able to do this is a stand in itself, and one that that's a hill I'm always going to be willing to die on. Not planning on it, but hey, if you got to pick one, that's a pretty decent one to do so there. So if you want to chime in over on the social media, that's a good place to do it. But of course, we are going to be taking those phone calls. Full up at the moment already, because that's how Friday works. The number to call if you want to get on a little bit later, squeeze on 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. And so, okay, just a couple of details I want to make sure that we mention, at least before getting into all those calls here. So again, Sunday, being planned for the presidential visit, and the reason I'm calling it that South Central El Paso, or even some of the outlets anywhere near the border, really, but definitely that area might be part of it, because a question that was asked during the White House press briefing today, a reporter at the briefing said there's reporting that El Paso has cleared the downtown of those expensive migrant camps that have grown there in advance of the president's arrival, and then was further followed up with, quote, is the president going to see a sanitized version of El Paso when he arrives at the border on Sunday? And do believe that it was not the usual White House spokesperson, but actually National Security spokesman John Kirby said, quote, the president is very much looking forward to seeing for himself firsthand what the border security situation looks like, particularly in El Paso. He's very much looking forward to getting a chance to talk with 2 Customs and Border Patrol agents on the ground who are actually involved in the missions to get their firsthand perspectives of it. So, yeah, I'm going to say that it's not totally clear where he's going, but if I just had to call my shot there on what my plans would be for Sunday, yeah, downtown, and probably, honestly, maybe northeast as well. I could see him going to the Border Patrol headquarters building there off of I-10 and not too far from like Fred Wilson area. And so, okay, Fort Bliss area in general, like, Spur 601, Yeah, no, right out. Don't even plan on it. Last time when Trump came into town, that one was pretty well shut down while the presidential motorcade went down that way, probably flying in there. So again, these are my rough expectations. I got nothing specific I can point at right now, just based on the previous experience, shall we say. And then I could see him going either to, South Central, El Paso, Segundo Barrio area, maybe further out towards like Tornillo. The real question is how long we'll be spending in town, because, I mean, hell, the Tornillo is a bit of a schlep, an hour or two round trip going out that way. So maybe not. So probably keeping it pretty concise and pretty contained. But, guess as good as mine at this point. I'm just making some educated guesses is where I'm coming from right now. But then there's also talk about there being further visits coming kind of on the heels of this, including more bipartisan Senate visits coming then on Monday to border in general, but also potentially El Paso. So, there's this focus going to be going on for a minute. So we're probably going to be hearing a lot about that, relying on our news partners at KFOX 14 to keep this going over the weekend. We'll be relying on them to keep y'all informed as well. So any significant updates we'll be sure to bring with you on air and online as necessary, interjecting if we got major shutdowns coming along with it. So that's so much to say that, we got a lot going on, but let's get to those phone lines now because, well, there's even more to talk about as we get into the Friday. So let's jump right in with it now as we have a lot of other comments coming online, including RJ talking about giant tubes of lipsticks in place to blocking traffic, then this pig of a border policy. I mean, there have been the new parts of it that have been unveiled, and we'll probably be having more conversations about that. Usually do that at the end of the program, but we're probably going to have more coming up on that in coming weeks. So stay tuned there as well. And John Browsleton with some, let's just call it colorful language about the state of news coverage in the area. And okay, just the point he's bringing up there, besides the other things I'm not quite sure I can repeat on air, about the security charges. So what has been brought up previously, what he's referring to there, I do believe, is the rally that was held, the one that O'Rourke then held the counter rally outside of, with the pictures that, ironically enough, ended up on the Vanity Fair coverage of him. Someone pointed out at that point in time that Annie Leibovitz, which if you know who that is and the significance of it, was on stage taking the pictures at that point in time. So it was for the actual rally, so not the presidential part of the visit. That's what is it, like $500,000, closer to $1 million, somewhere in between there, was charged for. Presidential visits are kind of one of those, this is governmental, and you're just going to have to deal with it kind of thing. So short answer, no, but longer answer, of course. I know. Let's dive into the phone calls here right now. You have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hello, Andrew. I just wanted to ask you a question. Have you Googled the Trusted News Initiative yet?
Yeah, we and in fact did it when we were talking about that a little bit earlier in this week. I was looking at some of the BBC stuff on it specifically.
Okay, I would encourage anybody who's listening to do the same. Did that scare you?
I mean, the slogan at the very least, beyond fake news, is that's an interesting, even just marketing wise, an interesting one to take here, given how we've got, beyond meat, those considerations, where it is no, it's not actually what we're calling it, but we're trying to move past it, go beyond it, transcend it, or something, however you want to put it. So as opposed to just like opposing or stopping, like I would have gone with like stopping fake news if I was in charge of this initiative. So saying beyond it leads to different implications, I got to say.
Yeah, this is one of the spokesmen for the organization said, disinformation which poses an immediate threat to life, so content can be reviewed promptly by platforms whilst publishers ensure they don't unwittingly republish dangerous falsehoods. And who are the arbitrators of those falsehoods? Who gets to say who is presenting misinformation and who's presenting the truth?
Absolutely. And that's when you start getting into that, the phrase I brought up yesterday about who watches the watchers kind of thing, like that. Sure, again, on the surface level, the idea of stopping dangerous misinformation, of which there absolutely is. I mean, there's bad information that exists online, or information that is intended to harm and put out there. Sometimes it's purported as memes, like what have I seen previously in the kind of joke category, but could get people hurt of, if you're worried about ice building up on your windshield wipers, just put sandpaper on it, it'll scrape it right off. don't do that. But those are the examples of things I've seen online, all the way to like literally stuff that could get people killed about, concoctions or making, or it just, I mean, I don't even want to get too descriptive on it because we're getting a little bit too close to it to comfort for me. So there obviously is bad information online. So dealing with it obviously is an important thing, but the way to deal with it, I mean, the devil is in the details, and the, medicine can't be worse than the cure, can't be worse than the disease, another way that has been put. So the way it's being formulated, if it's going to be this kind of monolithic and inscrutable process, that leads to just a whole lot more questions about, okay, how are we making sure that that is not becoming its own problem? Yeah, that's the kind of issue I have.
This has to be the biggest news story not been covered by all social media and the news. Okay. I mean, it started in 2019 by the BBC to prevent disinformation about elections, such as, about our elections. It continued with talking about, the fight to tackle harmful information about COVID-19 vaccines, and because they know what's best for us. And all this stuff, it ties into what you were talking about yesterday, about the supply chain, the problems that we're all facing right now. Everything stems from this misinformation, this group that has decided to become our ministry of truth. One more thing. One of the things that's happening right now, I listened to the news last night on ABC, local news, and they said something about right now we have only about 1,000 immigrants crossing the border now. So we were closing up there. We're closing our schools, the schools that were going to take all these immigrants. We're closing them because we don't want them to have any immigrants in there. And how about the football field? Is the football field out in the Northeast, is that being closed down now? This sounds like sanitization for Biden, so he can come in and say, look, everything's fine, hunky-dory. What's the big deal? My plan is working, and so just shut up and let me do my thing.
Yeah, and that was the question, what we talked about right at the top of the show, that was actually asked during the White House press briefing today about, is this, again, a sanitized version of it? And I will say that the further part of what you're referring to there, that the downtown, that reporting on by our news partners there at KFOX 14, that the city is closing the shelter at the convention center as migrant releases in El Paso decrease, and the similar efforts that were going on with those two former middle schools, I do believe it was Bassett and Moorhead, if I'm not mistaken, that those are kind of being ceased as well. The one you're talking about, the football field, I think you're referring to the temporary one that CBP itself was putting up?
Yes.
Okay. That one I'm not as sure about, I will say there, but
all the immigrants is probably over in Northeast at the Border Patrol Center over there that they were taking over there last week, because I went over in that area, visit a friend of mine, and they were using buses to transport the immigrants over into that Border Patrol.
Yeah,
that's on the northeast side.
That's kind of why I'm calling it as with nothing. I can't point to the actual schedule, no daybook information or things, or the exact itinerary of the presidential visit yet. But that's why I expect that. Okay, maybe South Central El Paso. I wouldn't plan on going there much Sunday in any case. But yeah, the Border Patrol station in Northeast, the headquarters for the region in Northeast, would probably be a pretty fair expectation, I would have to say, given also its proximity to the likely fly-in at Biggs Army Airfield and the closeness there. So yeah, that's some of the expectations I have so far, in lieu of concrete facts and actual plans I can point to just yet.
How about taking them over to the airport? Where all the immigrants are camping out.
Potentially. I mean, we'll see what actually develops of it. Again, we're going to be definitely relying on our news partners at KFOX 14 this weekend to keep up on where the things are going and to get the different parts of the photo ops. I've previously done, part of being out there for presidential visits, but there's so many parts of it, and you're kind of stuck in one location that I'll be kind of more trying to quarterback and definitely bring the breakdown for you then on Monday.
Messiah Frankie, you said yesterday you didn't understand what I was talking about. just Google Trusted News Initiative. And if you can't understand what's going on there by just reading what they're saying, I think, I'm sorry, you really don't have even a third grade education, because most third graders could figure that out. And Raul, Eric, please do the same. Learn, open your minds to something other than the narrative that you have decided is the truth. Find out, just look at what they're telling us. Just like they did with the World Economic Forum. They told us what they were going to do. That is what they did and what they're doing. And now it's a matter of the Trusted News Initiative is saying the same thing. They're telling us what they're doing, and nobody's listening.
Again, when it becomes not just a marking on, but controlling of information, there's a level of concern. I'm definitely going to be continuing to be concerned about there as well. So thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Thank you. God bless. Stay well, stay safe. And we haven't said this for a while. Let's go, Brandon.
All right. You have a good weekend there. Do appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, let's go ahead and take that first break of this hour right now. I know I've talked for a while on this one here. And patting myself on the back here. Definitely appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk about the things that affect us here in the borderland. And if you don't want people to talk about things, or saying that, no, you're not allowed to discuss things, or that's not a subject that can even be brought up here for reasons, actually discuss it. If you're opposed to discussion, you're finding yourself opposed to this program here, and I got nothing for you, and you might see yourself excused. Anyway, let's get back to the phone lines after this brief break. You're, of course, tuned into Talk El Paso, airing live here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Back after this, phone lines open if pretty consistently full. If you want to squeeze in that number again, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
54 northbound at the Spur 601 ramp, there's an injury accident at exit 24B. Southbound on the 54 Patriot at the I-10 interchange, right interchange ramp is blocked. Joe Battle northbound at Edgemere. El Paso Fire's on the scene of a crash. I-10 westbound Geronimo to the Patriots, a 5-minute delay, and it's a half-hour delay. Zaragoza northbound from the Loop to Montana. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Winning $1,000 incites all kinds of emotions.
Are you kidding? No way.
What to do with it is up to you.
We're going to Key West, that's it. What are you, nuts? We're going to Atlantic City.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 with inflation compensation.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Enter the nationwide keyword at ktsmradio.com for your chance to win. Brought to you by Sunland Park, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, where buying a car is fun.
This report is sponsored by Discover. We could talk about how complicated other banks make it to redeem credit card rewards. Or we could talk about how with Discover, you can redeem your rewards for cash in any amount at any time. Talk about amazing. Learn more at discover.com/redeem rewards. Terms apply.
Ready to rock your luck? Play Cash Blitz scratch tickets from the Texas Lottery for your shot at top prizes from $5,000 to $1 million. Or enter for a chance to win a VIP trip to an iHeartRadio event or concert. Plus, 50 lucky winners will travel to Austin to play the $10 million Cash Blitz Challenge and attend the iHeart Country Festival. Play Cash Blitz scratch tickets for a chance to rock your luck. Visit TexasLottery.com for odds. Must be 18 or older. Play responsibly.
Hey, Texas. There are approximately 950,000 individuals in Texas living with a serious mental illness, which is an individual risk factor for severe COVID-19. If you or someone you know is living with a serious mental health condition, such as schizophrenia, major depressive disorder, or bipolar disorder, make sure they know where to go this holiday season to stay safe and healthy. Visit covidvaccine.texas.gov to find resources and location information for vaccine providers near you. Stay healthy, Texas.
I'm Mangesh Shatikler, and it turns out astrology is way more widespread than any of us want to believe. You can find it in Major League Baseball, international banks, K-pop groups, even the White House. But just when I thought I had a handle on this subject, something completely unbelievable happened to me, and my whole view on astrology changed. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, give me a few minutes because I think your ideas are about to change too. Listen to Skyline Drive on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Ammo is expensive and in short supply. You can train without ammunition at home using the Mantis X. The Mantis X firearms training system is a no-ammo, all-electronic way to practice and improve your shooting accuracy. It simply attaches to your firearm and gives you data-driven, real-time feedback on improving your technique. 94% of shooters improve within 20 minutes using Mantis X, a must-have for every responsible gun owner. Dramatically improve your shooting accuracy today. Get yours at MantisX.com. That's MantisX.com.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We are up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Oh, there's a lot of ways to chime in, be a part of the show here, including, of course, the phone lines, which, okay, spoiler alert, it's probably going to be pretty full this whole show with the whole Free-for-All Friday thing and the open lines, but if you want to squeeze on, keep that number handy. It's at the top of the screen for those of you who can see it, but otherwise, make sure you got it down, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM, and, yeah, we kind of... Okay, this is not a no-holds-barred brawl, but we do take the gloves off, or at least relax some of the rules a little bit about the topics that we usually, hopefully, entertain most of. I mean, yeah, Monday through Thursday, what affects us here in the borderland on Friday? Well, let's just dive into it and really get into the issues here. And if you find yourself, okay, I try not to feed the trolls too much because you keep around what you feed. Ever had a stray cat? But let's just say that screw it, and Eric McNabb with the suggestion that my contribution specifically to democracy and policymaking is not positive in any sense. So a couple of questions then for you. Why are you here? If you find no value into this, or if you're here to just scream at people that you don't like, I'm going more towards the latter part here. And more specifically, well, just because I don't agree with you, if you're trying to enforce some kind of dogma on this, saying, well, if you don't disagree with me, you're a scum of the earth with any of that kind of thing here. Simple answer, no, and you're not even holding yourself to your own standard of prove out all of your claims, because sharing that one link to I believe it was a State Department thing constantly does not actually go with proof. That's just repeating the same. It's the whole donkey thing, being stubborn and not moving on it and not actually having a discussion on it. So if you're finding yourself opposed to that, frankly, be on notice that if you're not actually here to discuss the things and just to berate people and, well, label them what you think as gives you power over them, you're going to be removed. Plain and simple. Anyway, let's get back to the phone lines now. We do have Barbara on the west side of the line with us here right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for taking my call. I just want to make a few comments regarding how we ended 2022 and how we began 2023. And I've been doing some research, and in end of 2022, ICE has admitted that they have lost 400,000 records of illegal immigrants that they are supposed to be monitoring. And that was discovered in a FOIA request to DHS. So there we go. Keep numbers on these guys. And then in addition to that, DHS has released 1,400 convicted criminal illegal aliens in less than 3 months, plus 1,800 illegal criminals pending charges. Of those totals, 1,255 have bonded out. Some of them, get a load of this, on personal recognizance, an illegal alien waiting for criminal charges on personal recognizance. We've just hit an all-time low with this president. And according to the Federation for American Immigration Reform, they're saying that Biden is violating Immigration Nationality Act, and which is what I've been saying all along, that the president just violates the law. It specifically states, as I stated so many times, that they're supposed to detain anybody that crosses into the U.S. illegally. But Biden has used the TPS, he's using humanitarian parole to let everybody in claiming asylum, when he knows the majority of those asylum claims are going to be refused. And let's not forget the 45,000 unaccompanied minor children that HHS has lost. Somebody needs to be looking for those children, because we already know through a whistleblower at HHS that DHS, all these acronyms, are actually flying these unaccompanied minor children into the arms of traffickers. And that's being investigated through Ken Paxton, the state of Texas, because Austin apparently has a radius where they're shipping these kids to one individual in 4 different places. And finally, we ended 2022 with apprehensions and encounters 4 times more than what they were under President Trump in 2020. That's an awful lot. That's 3 million have crossed under Biden, and that's 4 times more than under President Trump. And let's not forget the gag orders, okay? DHS has told Customs Border Patrol that they are not to release any numbers until they are reviewed by DHS. My opinion is they're massaging and manipulating the numbers before they release them. Because there's nothing in this world, I believe, that this Biden administration is doing that is honest or on behalf of the American people. And then the start of 2023. Let's not forget, CNN reported downtown, and I'm going to quote them. They were talking about that the city was concerned about RSV, COVID, and other infectious diseases that were amongst the illegal immigrants in downtown. And then she says, and I'm quoting her, and on top of all that, there are ticks in this area. So they're very concerned about that as well, she continued.
Yeah, they do exist.
Shocked my mind is when I heard her anchor say, oh, with ticks, you can get Lyme disease and other things. Lyme disease is very critical. I know someone personally whose husband came back from a trip, brought ticks. She got bitten by a tick. She has spent 10, 15 years suffering from that one bite. She has been in Phoenix at the Mayo Clinic for treatment for months at a time. So I sent an email to every commissioner, to the judge, to every city representative and mayor, and asked them, is this true? How safe are we? You need to let us know, are there ticks there? And what dangers do the people of El Paso may encounter? And especially at the airport. I called the airport. I said, look, CNN is reporting this. I want to know, and I'm going to be personal here. My husband was diagnosed with colorectal cancer in 2019. It's been a long road for him. It metastasized, then he had lung cancer. Then we went through that. I told them, I said, you know, people who have someone, a loved one in their family, who are suffering or going through critical medical procedures need to know how safe we are at the airport. I've seen people on the floors, hundreds of them, staying there. Can you assure me that my husband will be safe when he flies out on Thursday? Well, of course, Barbara, you need to call the airlines. You call the airline because they're supposed to be in charge, I guess, of examinations. I call the OEM. I said, and I told him just what I said here on the radio. The gentleman tells me, well, we test everybody. They all have a medical exam. And even if they have a small headache, we take care of it. So I'm supposed to feel comfortable with everybody has a medical exam. Seriously? They're letting them in by hundreds at a time. There's no way you can examine these people. And I reminded him about the misdiagnosis of TB for COVID. So they take these matters lightly because they don't understand that there are people like me and my husband who are going through these trials, that we need to know we're safe in our community. And it upsets me that I have not gotten one peep. I got one response from a county commissioner. We'll look into it. And this has been a week ago. My husband was supposed to fly out yesterday, and he didn't. So seriously, somebody needs to take our concerns as seriously as they take those at the border. And finally, so Biden is coming to town.
Right.
Let's not get excited because he's going to do exactly what Mayorkas does. He's going to come here and see how much more money he needs to throw at El Paso to keep us, or not us, but the city and the county spending money and keeping the flow coming. He thinks that because he's going to expand Title 42 to Nicaragua, the Cubans, the Haitians, Venezuela, that it's going to take care of this influx. He seems to forget, or nobody has told him, that there are 140 countries that have so far passed through our borders. And the reason these numbers are increasing is because we're returning the Venezuelans. Well, what does he think when he returns the Haitians, the Cubans, and the Hondurans? Who's going to fill those numbers? If he thinks that this is going to stop that, it's not. And I listened to his presser. There was not one mention that he is going to spend one penny securing our border. He's going to put money into cutting-edge technology so that they can X-ray trucks. Well, I have a surprise for him, and I think there's some truckers that post on your website.
Yeah, I think so.
That technology has existed, I'm sure you know, Andrew, for years and years and years. I mean, we would have trucks inspected and delayed at the border because they had to go through the X-ray.
Right.
So this man is clueless. In 2 years, he's never mentioned fentanyl. He mentioned fentanyl. What did he say about fentanyl? From August to September, he said they have seized 20,000 pounds of fentanyl, enough to kill 1,000 people, he said. Really? Can somebody wake this man up? We have hundreds of thousands of our citizens dying from fentanyl, but he thinks 20,000 is only going to kill 1,000.
Yeah, that math doesn't quite add up. I'll agree with you there.
Yeah, I mean, we're going from bad to worse to unrecoverable. Is that possible? There they are again. They're just being reactive. And what is so, I don't know, to me, sometimes I get infuriated because our representative is saying how proud she is of the president, what he's doing to make things better. He's not making things better in our community. I mean, businesses here are complaining that these illegal immigrants are keeping foot traffic from their stores. We're getting from everywhere. The resources, I mean, they're tapping into the food bank, the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, into everybody that's available for anything to help these individuals. And they don't see the end. They don't see the big picture, that this is never going to end, because they're not doing first securing the border and then seeing what's within our borders, which is a logical thing to do, start from there. But that's too much to ask of the president, of our representative, who has no feelings whatsoever for the citizens, what we're going through, what we're feeling, with the fears we have, local businesses. It's a shame that we have a representative who puts everybody else besides the citizens that she represents first. Perhaps she should consider opening or starting some sort of an organization, a nonprofit, and put her salary towards taking care of these illegal immigrants. We pay her salary, and if she's so excited about what's happening on our border, she should, use some of her funds and keep it up.
I mean, there's a lot you bring up there and a lot to delve into. One thing I will say is that it was a minor note in the whole thing involving the news conference or the press availability today from the White House, but there was going to be another 300 agents added to the border, so I guess not exactly a major reinvestment, and still adds questions that I have about, okay, how is that going to work here? Because adding it's not just it's like that's a 2 year from now kind of actually seeing that happen. And I'm not saying that it'll take the entire 2 years for all of them, but to get all of it in, or for like any of them, but to get all of it in place, it's not just go and, go to the temp agency, pick up a few new agents for us. Like it's a process. And even then, given the amount we've seen, I mean, I've had conversations with some Border Patrol people in our area, just on a personal level, that they were having to do them and a couple of other agents were in charge of apprehending 800 crossings during one shift. So yeah, the numbers don't quite add up. And I mean, frankly, I would like to see more investment and more technology in our area and along the border sector overall. I mean, there's really no question that the technology exists and the ability to know all the movement, given that we have the issues that we have, whether it comes to smuggling of any stripe, those trying to conduct criminal activity, or just the humanitarian concerns of it. None, all of that lends itself to the idea of there should be more. There should be more investment. There should be more focus on doing that. So if that brings more focus to this, if anything comes out of it, you know what? I'll call it good. I'll call it a net benefit. And if that's the outcome of this visit, okay, you know what? I'll take it. Because at the very least, and again, still open invitation for the president to come on the show. I think he'll be out of town by Monday, but I'm sure we could pre-record an interview. Again, I'm not going to hold my breath on that. But in any case, the idea of the focus coming here and the actual policy, because there is some policy changes going along with this. The whole a CBP One app that is going to require it. And one thing I will say that you did mention there as well, that I don't believe expulsions are a part of the policy change that has gone through so far. I mean, there have been more enforcement actions we've been seeing in our area, including some being apprehended in downtown El Paso. Take that as you will. But then also the idea of anyone needing to go through that app, having to wait in the other country, it kind of almost seems like MPP by another name. And at least some of the interpretation I've heard from other reports in our area about, are people willing to go back across and then wait essentially in that? And the willingness there is also a question, because sure, if you're offering an option but no one's willing to take it, does it really count? So this is such a we've done whole damn shows on this, and I'm sure we will do it further in the future. So the idea of it being solved anytime soon is laughable at best, and laughing is to keep from crying for the most part here. But we'll see what comes out of this visit, if there is anything more substantive being done, because again, if he's kind of at the White House, the president himself is putting this stamp on this policy saying, yes, we are doing this and this will solve this, that would be, well, at least more action than we've really seen, because we've been seeing kind of a whittling down of existing policy down to, I mean, even talking about going back to Title 8 as it has come up, with Title 42 in the limbo that it is. So, I mean, I'll be waiting to see, and we'll definitely have a breakdown on Monday of what this visit is, what things have been majorly being said, and substantive action, if any, that can be expected coming from it.
Well, Biden, I mean, Andrew, he confuses people, because he says he's going to send immigration officers, not immigration judges, to the border.
Right.
We know for a fact that they've got these transfer crossings between Mexico and the U.S. because they're being pre-approved in Mexico. So I don't know what he's solving, rather than complicating the waters even more, because we have one in Juarez, in Nuevo Laredo, in Reynosa, and I forget the fourth location. And you've heard what's happening in Mexico. They're abducting these people. They're holding them for ransom and extorting them. And then, I mean, and our congresswoman, I hope I don't have to keep, talking about her the next 2 years. I don't know that it makes a difference in El Paso, because the Democrats have such a stronghold that you cannot move or squeeze an inch away from them, because you saw what they did with one of the city councilwomen who appeared on TV. Pushing back on Biden and stuff. So I'm going to keep it up, I guess, until there's change, God willing, someday. But and then he's expanded the use of TPS, of
temporary protected temporary protective states. I don't remember the SM part of it, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
TPS, humanitarian parole. He did not even use the word humanitarian parole in his interview. He just used, in his presser, he just used the word parole. So he's changing the law there. This man is so illegal. I don't know how we keep him in office. But anyway, that's how we started 2023, Andrew. On a happy note.
Well, yeah, happy 2023 to you as well. We're definitely starting it off with a lot going on in our region, but like I said, we'll try to keep our best on top of it as they develop, because again, the presidential visit, but then there might be more Senate visits coming to at least the border in general, maybe our region specifically. So it's going to be a busy Monday. I can already tell you all that.
Yes. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. You have a good one there and a good weekend.
You too. Bye.
All right. And with that, got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll definitely get to more phone calls on the line there. So, again, remember that number, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. But after this break, hold up more comments as well. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. President Biden will be in El Paso on Sunday, and the White House today said he plans to meet with local leaders and see firsthand how the community is responding to a record number of migrants arriving at the border. The White House still hasn't said exactly what President Biden plans to do and see while he's in El Paso. This will be his first visit to El Paso since taking office. His stop comes before a scheduled visit to Mexico City, where he will attend a summit. A bipartisan group of senators will tour El Paso on Monday. That includes Texas Senator John Cornyn and Arizona Senators Kyrsten Sinema and Mark Kelly, along with several other Republicans and Democrats. They will also meet with local leaders. Meantime, the city of El Paso has closed its emergency migrant shelter that had been set up at the convention center. Deputy City Manager Mario D'Agostino said the shelter was no longer needed due to a drop in migrants being released from federal custody. That emergency shelter opened on December 23rd at the convention center when the borderland was facing dangerously cold temperatures. The city also plans to close an emergency shelter that had been set up at a vacant middle school in central El Paso. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
On the 54 Patriot southbound at the 10, the right interchange ramp is blocked from stop-and-go heavy traffic. 54 Patriot northbound at the Spur 601 ramp, an injury accident slowing traffic. Joe Battle northbound at Edgemere, an injury accident there blocking the turnaround lane. Gateway north at the state line, an accident's blocking the left lane. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brad Montgomery. It looks like we'll see a cold one for tonight, lows dropping down into the 20s and 30s. This as a weak front pushes through, and we're not going to see the upper 60s to lower 70s for the weekend. Still a very nice weekend, but we're going to see more lower to mid 60s, about 61 degrees on your Saturday with about a 10% chance of a shower. And for your Sunday, partly cloudy skies and dry with a high around 63. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Compassion International.
We've all felt the impact of rising food prices. For families in poverty, they're facing malnutrition and even death. You can feed a family for a month with your $50 donation to Compassion International. Just text the word radio to 97646.
Attend the Las Cruces Gun Show this weekend, January 7th and 8th at Las Cruces Convention Center, 680 East University Avenue, Las Cruces, New Mexico. See dealers selling the finest in modern guns, antique guns, custom knives, scopes, a huge selection of ammo, reloading supplies, and much more. Buy, sell, and trade at the Las Cruces Gun Show this weekend, January 7th and 8th at Las Cruces Convention Center, 680 East University Avenue, Las Cruces. Get $2 off admission. Go to azgunradio.com. Parking is free.
I never write reviews, but Navage is so amazing, I had to leave one. Nothing's ever cleared out my sinuses as well. I'm blown away by how Navage works. That's a review from Carrie, and it's one of over 100,000 online testimonials praising Navage. I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I've talked about flushing out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs. How Navage's powered suction can help you breathe better, and how your nose is the body's air filter, and Navage will clean it out. But don't take my word for it. What do people like Chad say, who wrote, Navage has helped clear out my nasal passages every single night. My wife says my snoring has gone way down. Snorefest be gone, unquote. Navage is the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million customers to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, Target, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
On a busy construction site, things can be misinterpreted. Bring in the bulldozer can sound a lot like,
building looks mediocre. Designs need a do-over.
or even,
install a roller coaster? Okay.
be on the same page at every stage with Autodesk, from the designers to the field crew to the owner of the finished building. Autodesk Construction Cloud gives everyone clarity. Now, can we actually bring in the bulldozer?
Why do you buckle up when you get in your truck? Maybe you do it to get home safely to your loved ones, or because you take your job as a professional driver seriously, or because you want to follow the law to stay safe. Remember, it doesn't matter how long you've been driving, or even if it's a quick trip. Wear your seatbelt to stay safe on the road. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. That's www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. And remember to buckle up when you get behind the wheel. Paid for by FMCSA.
Hey Texas, did you know that individuals living with serious mental illness are more susceptible to severe COVID-19? Visit covidvaccine.texas.gov for vaccination resources to help reduce the risk and keep yourself and your fellow Texans informed and protected this holiday season. Stay healthy, Texas.
Is foot pain making your life miserable? The Good Feet Store wants to help. We invite you to visit our store at Airway Boulevard at I-10 for a free fitting and test walk and learn more about how the Good Feet Store can help you find relief. The Good Feet Store.
We've all felt the impact of rising food prices. For families in poverty, they're facing malnutrition and even death. You can feed a family for a month with your $50 donation to Compassion International. Just text the word radio to 97646.
This report is sponsored by Compassion International.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Again, a lot of ways to get at us here. So if you actually wanted to talk about the things that affect us in the borderland and beyond today, yes, we do open it up for the, bring it on for today. But again, the discussion is the important part, and if you are finding yourself opposed to us being able to talk about things and saying that no, you're not allowed to, yeah, that's almost never going to fly here. That's, call it oppositional defiant disorder or what have you, but to talk about the things that are important here and to bring it forth. I want people to talk sincerely about what's important to them, and anything opposed to that is, well, simply put, not going to be tolerated. But let's get back to those phone lines here right now. We do have Raul in the Northeast line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, hey, Andrew. I bet Dr. Mumbling Ben doesn't listen to MSNBC, CNN, PBS, NPR, Free Speech TV, and read the New York Times or the Washington Post like I do, and like probably Eric and Messiah Frankie Valley do too. Now, Dr. Mumbling Ben, I think like most Trumpers, are brainwashed by the right-wing propagandists. And I think Mumbling Ben did a lot of projecting there. Now, I saw and heard our Congresswoman Veronica Escobar's nomination speech for Representative Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker of the House. And it was great. She's a very good writer and speaker, as most congresspersons are. Now, in that speech, she accused the House Republicans of failing on a promise to voters to focus on the issues like inflation. And she cited the January 6th on the second anniversary of the riot, suggesting things could have been a lot worse that day if the current Republican majority were in charge at that time. She said this, and I quote her here: "As we gather here in this chamber on this solemn day, the second anniversary of January 6th, when members of law enforcement were under siege, when there was an attempted coup, an insurrection that will live in infamy, that we lived through was an assault on our republic and our democracy from within. And on that day, when my colleagues and I were trapped in this gallery, the terrorists who assaulted our police officers could be heard banging on these doors, breaking these windows, here to prevent the certification of a free and fair election." Now, we live in a military city with one of the world's largest military installations in the middle of our community. Lots of military people retire here in El Paso, like my dearly deceased friend, Jerome Tillman. My dad served in World War II. My uncle served in the Korean War. My stepson served in South Korea while Trump was threatening to rain fire and fury on North Korea before he said he fell in love with the communist dictator of North Korea, who played Trump into stepping into North Korea. Now, General James Mattis is a retired United States Military Corps 4-star general who Trump appointed to serve as the 26th U.S. Secretary of Defense. Here's what he said 2 years ago on January 6th. Today's violent assault on our capital, an effort to subjugate American democracy by mob rule, was fomented by Mr. Trump. His use of the presidency to destroy trust in our election and to poison our respect for their fellow citizens has been enabled by pseudo-political leaders whose names will live in infamy as profiles in cowardice, like that cave-in McCarthy. Our Constitution and our Republic will overcome this stain, and we the people will come through together in our never-ending effort to form a more perfect union, while Mr. Trump will deservedly be left a man without a country. Now, House Minority Leader Craven Kevin McCarthy blamed Trump for the Capitol's attack, as did Senate Minority Moscow Mitch McConnell, as did the second impeachment proceedings, as did the January 6th Congressional Committee, and the testimony of former White House staffers and administration officials. Now, Andrew, I want to know from you, do you agree with all these people that Trump was responsible for the attack on the Capitol?
Simply put, no. If you're going to say that, was he the one planning out and plotting this? Was he definitely playing with fire and got burned with rhetoric? Absolutely here. I mean, the investigations, the January 6th committees, and even the impeachments that came with it, I'm hoping don't end up being so much, sound and fury signifying nothing, because what we saw, of course, coming out of the impeachment process was ultimately nothing. Of course, there have been now the criminal referrals made by the January 6th committee, but again, it never quite reached the level of the investigation I would have liked to have seen and see then substantive action coming out of, not just criminal prosecutions, but questions of how could the Capitol even be breached in such a way. Anyone who says January 6th was a good thing has just no reasonability in my mind, because it was not a good thing. It was a very bad thing. But to call it, I mean, there's a lot of language that goes out there, to call it a true coup attempt, that doesn't fly by me. You had people who were people plotting a coup, who are truly expecting to either win or lose their lives. They don't like plan flights back home. You got a lot of people who were swept up in it, and a few definitely bad actors who were wanting to take it much further, and prosecution should rightly happen on them. But to say that all of it fomented, I don't know what could actually be held accountable. There are other things to consider that even come along with it, such as what does speech implications have? And again, the whole impeachment proceedings and the things that came out of them or lack thereof, and maybe wonder, okay, what actually is the focus of them? Because if you're wanting to see things fixed, see things dealt with, see it actually substantively changed, this would not have been the way I went about it, just plain and simple. So if you're, again, very much opposed to the personage of the former president, you're entitled to your opinion, but I got to say the way that we're going about this would not meet the standard that I would think would be set just kind of regardless of politics. It's been very much about public eye in the public sphere, and just, again, investigations that are going into depth things. The most common phrase I run into anyway is, we will not comment on an ongoing investigation for essentially fear of tainting it. And if that's not the major focus of it here, does it really rise to that? I really gotta say. So we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, getting on more phone calls. So thank you for the point in the call for what it's worth. Back after the top of the hour with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
2 crashes in the East Valley on the Loop, slowing traffic. Memorial Highway northbound just after Pebble Hills. A crash there and blocking the on-ramp. Another crash just north of that on Memorial Highway before Tierra Cortez is also causing delays. Joe Battle northbound at Edgemere, and injury accidents blocking the turnaround lane. And Montana Avenue is slow eastbound from Hawkins out to Zaragoza with 20-minute delays. Gary Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Radio 690 is KTSM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The House is adjourning until 10 p.m. Eastern tonight. This comes as a small group of conservatives is once again keeping Kevin McCarthy from becoming Speaker of the House. Enough of them voted against the Californian on the 13th and most recent ballot to deny him the gavel. George Santos is reacting to the deadlock. The controversial New York Republican congressman-elect says it's a frustrating situation.
It's been unproductive for the American people. We need a speaker.
Santos is accused of lying about huge portions of his life and is also in limbo because he hasn't been sworn in. President Biden is honoring those who resisted pressure to overturn the 2020 election. He presented the Presidential Citizens Medal to state officials, officers who defended the Capitol during the insurrection, and election workers. The medal is one of the country's highest civilian honors. New details are out on the hacking of Twitter's servers. According to an Israeli cybersecurity monitoring firm, more than 200 million user emails were posted on a hacking forum on the dark web. The mid-December breach could lead to hacking, targeted phishing, and doxing. The FDA is approving an Alzheimer's drug that slowed cognitive decline in clinical trials. Lisa Taylor has more.
The drug is called lecanemab, and it was developed by Biogen and Japanese pharmaceutical company Eisai. Trials in November showed it slows a cognitive decline somewhat in people with mild impairment due to Alzheimer's disease, but it also carries risks of brain swelling and bleeding. This comes after Congress released a report last week about the FDA's mishandling of the approval of another Alzheimer's drug made by Biogen and Eisai. I'm Lisa Taylor.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is activating the Florida National Guard to help law enforcement with the overwhelming number of migrants arriving in the Florida Keys. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. A former University of Southern California official will spend 6 months in prison for her role in a college admission scandal. The scheme saw Donna Heinel help push through fake athletic recruits in exchange for donations to the school. Prosecutors said Heinel received over $1 million in payments to USC athletic funds from families. Las Vegas Mayor Carolyn Goodman has had it with Interstate 15, but not on her side of the Nevada-California state line. Phil Hewlett explains.
Goodman tweeted a message to Caltrans as well as Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg saying travelers headed back to California from Las Vegas had to endure a nearly 18-mile backup on Monday. She is calling for the widening of the highway on the California side, where the I-15 currently has 2 lanes in either direction. The Nevada side has 3 lanes both ways. Goodman says driving times on weekends and holidays are intolerable.
Dirt from New Jersey is being used for a professional bull riding competition this weekend in New York City. Lisa G has more.
35 toppled at Madison Square Garden. To help stage the event, some 1.5 million pounds of dirt is being brought in from Lyndhurst, New Jersey, and dumped on the garden's 5th floor where the competition is being held. The dirt is made from a combination of clay and sand, and it can take more than 6 hours to have trucks move it into the arena.
According to the weather monitoring company, Visalia, Texas had more lightning strikes than any other state in 2022. The numbers show there were over 27.5 million lightning strikes in the state last year, well ahead of Florida, which came in second at just under 19 million strikes. Wesley Grove, which is between College Station and Huntsville, is the lightning capital of Texas, registering 262 strikes. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Bonus. That's bonus. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive Commercial Insurance can protect your small business with over 30 coverage options, an easy-to-use mobile app, personalized discounts, and more. Get a quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
For more than 20 years, the Window Depot has provided the best price and the biggest inventory on in-stock vinyl windows. And now, the Window Depot is more than a window store, offering homeowners and contractors a one-stop warehouse offering interior and exterior doors, granited quartz countertops, in-stock cabinetry, and skylights to finish your project. Their team of professionals will help with everything from free kitchen design to custom orders from leading manufacturers like Milgard and Geldwin. Order online or find a location near you at thewindowdepot.com.
This report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive Commercial Insurance can protect your small business with over 30 coverage options, an easy-to-use mobile app, personalized discounts, and more. Get a quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
How a busy baker beat back foot pain. Meet Sanja. Brownies, cupcakes, cookies. I love to bake. There have been times when I've been on my feet for at least 12 hours. And that's how things went from sweet to sour. I had excruciating pain in both feet to a point where I had to limp out of the kitchen. So she called up a former foot pain sufferer. Her big sister. She told me you need to go to the Good Feet store and get some arch supports. Smart lady. It was an awesome experience. Scott took great care of my feet. He's the arch support specialist who fitted her. He was very patient, very knowledgeable. Scott was the man. Now Sanja can have her cake and bake it too. Oh yeah, my feet are very happy now. You're gonna have to make some cookies for Scott. I've already done that. Of course you did. See how arch supports work for you. Stop in or schedule your free fitting at goodfeet.com.
Airway Boulevard at I-10.
Stock up and save big now store-wide at the Lowe's Truckload event. For a limited time, get up to 50% off select tools and accessories from the brands you trust. While supplies last, selection varies by location, valid 12/29 through 1/11.
Only the free iHeartRadio app gives you access to everything you love, from the stations that keep you company, the music that keeps you singing along, to the podcasts that keep you entertained. Not to mention chances to win cash and once-in-a-lifetime artist experiences only on the app. And it's always 100% free. Only iHeartRadio gives you access to the music, radio, and podcasts you love. Download it for free in the App Store.
iHeartRadio. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we are up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Yeah, there's a lot going on most of those here. People are dropping those likes and reacts. Simplest way I can do it right now. We do have Ricardo Vasquez, Ion Graham, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, Robert Haynes, Ida Beza Gardner, James Holmes, Flaco Jimenez, Eric McNabb, Bernadette Bandicol, and Amber Banda. I mean, if you appreciate the ability to talk about these things, well, appreciate that if you help with those algorithmic things. But let's just say we're going to start holding people to their own standards here before too long here. I mean, it's Free for All Friday. We're definitely getting into issues here, but if you're being actively destructive to that process, yeah, be put on notice. Anyway, let's go back to those phone lines now. We do have Andrew on the west side on the line with us here right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much. I'll try to be brief.
Fair enough.
I'm sure Biden will be here by 12 o'clock. You know, he has to get his ice cream from either Baskin-Robbins or Menchie's.
Yeah, would you like Froyo? I don't know. I haven't seen that in the documentation about him. But, I mean, if he's supporting local-ish businesses, sure, why not?
Yeah, why not? And then he can take off to the border. But anyway, brings me to my next thing. El Paso Matters.
Mm-hmm.
Did report that there was a lot of pickups by Border Patrol downtown. And a lot of people are scattering. They're leaving. And it comes as no surprise to me that this is happening before the president's visit.
Yeah, saw the article you're talking about there, the El Paso Matters one, I believe you're talking about anyway. Migrants in downtown detained, new policy to allow more to seek asylum, coming from and showing some kind of like before and after of the same section of street that they're, I mean, I was seeing even a little bit over the weekend, but definitely in the middle of the week, more, for lack of a better term, stepped up enforcement, specifically more like El Paso police patrols, and at least a couple of instances that I've seen the video of anyway, of individuals being asked to essentially identify themselves and like take off a shirt and show their tattoos. That was particularly after the whole, New Year's Day, Cerazo Número 3, prison attack and outbreak that happened there. So, I mean, there's a lot of different parts of it, but I can see where people are coming down to the idea of this particularly being a focus before the presidential visit.
Yes, well, I would love to get a Freedom of Information request with the Homeland Security and see their internal memos. I'd love to see that because this is definitely planned. And maybe some of them are being expelled from the United States. I doubt it. But I would say a lot of these people are being transferred over to the facilities down district over in Sierra Blanca and probably up in, where is it, Otero.
Potentially, I do know that has been being an effort going on already to use other processing facilities, so to speak. I mean, previously it's been El Paso has been the relief valve for other parts of it, and now, well, the inverse is happening.
Well, yes. But anyway, also in regard to what Raul was saying about conservatives not listening to these different news sources. Well, let me tell you, I can't speak for everybody, and I'm not going to make a blanket statement, but I do. This conservative, I spend about $160 a month just on satellite TV to have my different news sources, whether it's CNN, MSNBC, BBC, the BBC, or even the news from the Mexican side of the border. I view it all. And but anyway, also Barbara mentioned something about ticks.
Oh, yeah, and I've got some, unfortunately, personal experience with that in our area. I mean, you often think of like ticks as like deep woods kind of things, but they are absolutely present in this area. I rescued a dog once, actually, that I thought just had like some really bad mange, and no, it was just that many ticks on it. So they are definitely present in our area. I mean, we had to fumigate the yard several times in the aftermath of that, and we were still finding them.
Yes, well, not only do you have to worry about Lyme disease, but another disease from ticks that affects humans, not only canines, cats, but humans, is rickettsia disease, and that stuff is really nasty. And there's really only two forms of antibiotics that that they have that's done through intravenous. Solution that can handle that. That's really deadly stuff.
I mean, yeah. I mean, nothing about. There's not a good thing about ticks that I am like, yeah, go ticks, except for maybe being a food source for something else. But yeah, it's just I'm really glad that we are usually dry enough to not have them around here, but they're unfortunately definitely present.
Yes, sir. Anyway, you all have a good weekend. Andrew, thank you for taking my call, and I turn the mic back over to you.
Yeah, appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there as well.
Yes, sir.
We got more calls in line. Here it goes. Again, this is, of course, our free-for-all Friday thing, so we're taking those calls throughout both hours of the program here. So let's get to at least one more before we end up hitting that next break right now. We do have Frankie and Massey on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
All right. In the great words of John McEnroe, you cannot be serious. This is unbelievable. This guy, Craven McCruddy, has already lost after the 14th derivation of this vote. Now, I want to say, where is the shame? Where's the humiliation, the embarrassment, the sense of self-worth? Ben, are you paying attention? This is unbelievable. How does somebody with that national exposure go out there and smile or even exist? I would be so far under the ground, you wouldn't even see me. I would be so embarrassed. How in the world does this happen? Now, this is going to go into Saturday, into Sunday. And I told you once before, you need to call Veronica, because I think my idea is hugely workable. Because the Democrats are solid, 212 for Hakeem Jeffries, and the Republicans are all over the map. They look like Keystone Cops, for crying out loud. That's my opening comment.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there about the plan that you put forth yesterday. And I'm just going to say, I think that our local representatives are probably going to be pretty well taking up the time until we get through the various visits that are going to be happening through the weekend and into early next week. So as much as we don't exactly like have each other's like Snapchat back and forth here, we're not on that kind of conversational level. I mean, we talk professionally and at times here, so I am sure that a lot of ideas have been floated. I wouldn't be surprised if even something very similar to the one that you've put up has come up at the national level, though given the impasses that we've seen already, I am not going to totally see any of those particularly happening. And as was brought up here, a previous caller mentioning that, of course, the endorsement of or renomination for the 13th time of Hakeem Jeffries by Escobar a little bit earlier today, actually.
Well, goody gumdrops. If they take my suggestion, yippee-yi-yay. But let me say something. Now, the great JB is coming to your wonderful little town of El Paso. And good for you people, but better for me. Because all your roads are going to be jammed up. And if he were to come to Mesilla, because we got tiny little roads here because we're such an old little town. But if he were to come here, for crying out loud, I would not even be able to get to my beer mill for crying out loud. So good for you. Have a JB in El Paso. What do you think of them apples?
I think we're going to need several kinds of JB in the before, during, and after this visit. I mean, again, I think it's just going to be probably for people in whatever he's going to. A bit of a headache. We'll see what substantive things come out of it. Any further policy put forth, any more of the changes that have been kind of trickling out ever since this visit was announced, including, well, what's going on with, ICBP, Border Patrol in terms of enforcement, new agents. I'm hoping it will bring more focus and therefore more resources to the region. That's my, I guess, low-level hope and expectation that comes along with it. But yeah, it's probably going to be slow going for a lot of places there on Sunday, and then probably even into Monday as we got those other potential other actual visits, as our news partners at KFOX 14 said about the then Senate delegation. But just to your initial point again on what's going on with the actual vote there, I keep wondering, like, what happens next? Because if this is just going to be, 14 votes, this is getting as close to like political scorched earth as you can get. So if this is going to be okay, we will eventually accept with this, what is the outcome? What's the end game here? Because if it's like, okay, fine, we'll finally acquiesce with this guy, I can't imagine there's going to be a whole lot of goodwill left. So I honestly see it as being, if it's anything besides a complete capitulation that they are expecting, I really don't know how this is going to end up.
Well, yeah, you're spot on with that. By the gods of old, you're 100% right. My goodness, when does this end? This is insanity. I mean, what's going on here? I mean, for all the rational reasons you can imagine, when you don't have a functional level of the government working, there's all kinds of damaging all aspects of this whole thing. This is ridiculous. Well, I want to say something. God bless. I was in El Paso today, in your fine little city. I just in and I was out, me and the wife. She had to stop at a store. But I want to tell you something. Your little El Paso is a kind of a cute little funky town. I like to call it funky town. But I want to tell you, I love you people out there. You're so great. You El Pasoans are just the cat's me out. Anyway, have a great weekend, all right?
Well, you too as well. Thanks for the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Hey, keep me on, all right?
We'll see what we can do there for you, but I do appreciate the point and the call with you there. So with that, let's go ahead and take that next break right now. You're, of course, tuned into Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Coming out of this break, we're going to be talking even further about, well, what y'all want to put forth, the issues that affect us in the borderland and beyond. Free for All Friday is what we call it, what we do, and what we're going to keep doing with, again, comments, calls, and everything in between. Okay, maybe not really in between, but all those things and more as we get towards the end of this next hour of the show. So stay tuned after this break.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Two crashes on Loop 375 in the East Valley. One, Memorial Highway northbound just after Pebble Hills, involving a couple of vehicles blocking the entrance ramp. And just north of that, another crash before Tierra Cortez that's causing delays. A crash reported Gateway South at Kenworthy is blocking the right lane. I-10 westbound is slow. Hawkins to the Patriot with 11-minute delays. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive Commercial Insurance flexes to fit your business needs. From quick repairs to adjustable coverages and even payment options, Progressive Commercial makes it easy to get what you need. Quote today in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
Hey, Texas. There are approximately 950,000 individuals in Texas living with a serious mental illness, which is an individual risk factor for severe COVID-19. If you or someone you know is living with a serious mental health condition, such as schizophrenia, major depressive disorder, or bipolar disorder, make sure they know where to go this holiday season to stay safe and healthy. Visit covidvaccine.texas.gov to find resources and location information for vaccine providers near you. Stay healthy, Texas.
Attend the Las Cruces Gun Show this weekend, January 7th and 8th at Las Cruces Convention Center, 680 East University Avenue, Las Cruces, New Mexico. See dealers selling the finest in modern guns, antique guns, custom knives, scopes, a huge selection of ammo, reloading supplies, and much more. Buy, sell, and trade at the Las Cruces Gun Show this weekend, January 7th and 8th at Las Cruces Convention Center, 680 East University Avenue, Las Cruces. Get $2 off admission. Go to azgunradio.com. Parking is free.
I didn't think it was possible to meet someone like Susan. We just clicked after realizing we each have a strong sense of self and share the same core values in life.
After taking our advanced personality test, Daniel and Susan matched on Silver Singles, the secure dating site for 50-plus singles who know what they want. Sign up today at silversingles.com/date. That's silversingles.com/date.
Paid actors representing true customer testimonials. Names have been changed.
Mama, what does the chicken say? Dog. Cat. Giraffe.
Giraffe, really? Giraffe.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right.
Visit NHTSA.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we are up on these days. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways you can get at us because of, all those things, all those ways. So if you're really wanting to add your 2 cents, social media works as it does pretty much throughout the show. Phone lines open-ish. I mean, yes, they are open, but they've been full pretty much through the full show so far. So again, keep that number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Yeah, it's one of those busy end of the weeks here. So let's dive back into it, get some more phone calls online with us here, including some more commentary, including a response to the whole speaker situation. Ed Clore saying the process is the end game. I mean, yeah, we've talked a little bit further about it, the whole idea of the concessions, about some of the things that have come up. I've been hearing about being floated around, or being what is being wanted to get through the, you could call it intransigence if you want to. I wouldn't necessarily call you wrong, of the vote right now about like single issue only bills, no more like omnibus things, kind of in protest to the trillion plus omnibus spending bill that just went through, which I could understand, but also how the hell would you do the business of the country and pass a budget if it weren't for being able to kind of put them up like that? I mean, I kind of feel the same way about it. I do like the Read the Bill Act that's been put up a few times. Like, sure, it sounds good in theory. Yeah, you have to understand what you're passing, and it has to be read out in public, but here's the thing about bills. They are not light reading. They are not even like you it's a degree to try and figure out how to read and write bills on its own. So I'm not saying that everyone's an idiot, but like these are not simple documents. Like it's just this side of like scientific technical documentation. I've sat in on a few like thesis defenses back in my college days for friends of mine, and boy was I in over my head when they're getting into like specific chemical processes. Like it reads like that is what I'm getting at. So sure, I can see them being want to change business as usual, but again, at a certain point, I got to wonder, what does that look like at the end? You're just like, all right, well, you finally give us our concessions. No hard feelings, right? And just, as much as people should be able to dispassionately do the business of it, their humanity still often wins out, and I don't see this working out well to actually like get anything done unless there's just a whole lot of crow eating. Anyway, let's go ahead and take that next call right now. We do have Jerry in the Northwest in line with us here right now. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for taking my call.
Yeah, sure thing. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm going to take us back to yesterday with the hydrogen portion. I know that you said it would take a large tank on the back of your truck or car or whatever.
To my understanding,
you don't have to have. Yeah, you don't have to have that. There's a thing called hydrogen on demand, which means when you turn on the key, it turns on this thing and it gets the hydrogen from water.
Yeah,
Okay.
hydrolysis. Okay.
So, yes, through not hydrolysis. Oh heck, I can't remember what it's called now. Hydrostatic electrical going through the water, electricity going through the water from your battery, and it doesn't drop that much. Your alternator can handle it. So anyway, on to the next portion of this. I understand that Joe Biden's going to try a new pardon system for illegal aliens or refugees or whatever you want to call them coming across the border. Have you heard anything about that?
Not as much. What it brings to mind here is I think that there were pardons being suggested, and this is well previous of the current moment, being suggested for essentially low-level drug possession, specifically marijuana, that there was going to be essentially pardon-level reviews being done, not exactly individually, but not totally en masse, either somewhere in between. So I haven't heard that specifically, but I guess I could see that potentially being done this way, though I do think that there would be the recognition that that is politically fraught territory, as that at any kind of like substantive level, that could be pretty well accused of being, amnesty, etc.
Yes, it could be. But from what I understand, they're basically doing the same. It would basically start off doing the same thing that Donald Trump already had, which was what the Remain in Mexico policy.
Mm-hmm.
So until they came up on the docket to see the judge or come in front of the judge for their amnesty review or whatever it is, okay, to be allowed to the nation. And if they try to cross the border, they would not be allowed to participate in it at all. But also, pardon for what? If they've already crossed the border, that's one thing of breaking the law. Are there other portions that he's going to pardon, like you said, for misdemeanor drug use or handling or carrying or whatever?
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, the expanded policy that has been announced as of earlier this week, once the actual border visit was announced. The speculation we were having, what was that, Wednesday, about if he's coming here, there's got to be probably new policy coming along with it. Otherwise, why would you try to then go to and essentially be directly associated with what's going on? So yeah, I think it's the CBP One app that is being put forth. That if you apply through that, it's that's why I kind of called it MPP, Migrant Protection Protocol, so-called Remain in Mexico policy, by another name, because you have to wait in another country and you can then be allowed in. So a pardoning, I wouldn't quite call that correct for that one. It does allow for you become 2 years temporarily documented, is what it does end up being, while it processes, or up to 2 years until you go through. But then if you cross illegally in the meantime, or you have any other major offenses on you, you become ineligible for that. So I guess it's kind of like another way to put it would be maybe a sped up version, or a more condensed version anyway, of Title 8, which is what has already been said will be put back on if Title 42 does end up fully going away after whatever the hell happens in the Supreme Court, in which that if you are found to be ineligible to remain in the country through Title 8 processing, you're then ineligible to come through anymore for, I think it's a period of 5 years in that case. So similar-ish kind of bounds, different process.
Okay, does he have the authority just to change law as the president? Does that not have to go through the Congress first?
Well, that's the other part we keep running into. The fact of the matter is that, Title 8 is, a law may be a little bit too strong for that. I will say that, because all the things we've talked, all the policies we've just named, I do believe, including that, now that I think about it, are okay, they're policy, but they're not law. They have not been passed by Congress, because you also got to remember that Congress hasn't passed a law on this since the Reagan administration. So, yeah, it's short answer, no. But if it's technically opposed to other law, that's kind of a different question.
Yeah, well, Title 8 is a law.
Okay.
It's just like Title 42 is a law. Title 8, when Title 42 went all the way back to the 1951 UN conference, and then it was changed in 1968 again, updated with a thing from Africa. But dealing with refugees from countries that are at war, or their people are being persecuted because of their race, religion, political point of view, etc.
Okay, let me rephrase then real quick to clarify what I was saying. That I will say that yes, there is a basis in law, and though there has to be justification for the ability to even do this. But the way the programs are being formulated, whether it be Title 42 or the CBP1 app, any of those parts of it, these have not been specifically passed by Congress, because again, there has just not been that legislative willingness to truly follow through with it at all recently. So yes, but no is the kind of unsatisfying answer, I know, because there hasn't been much happening when it comes to Congress on this whole issue.
Well, then that's one of the problems that we're having, is we're allowing. And Joe Biden called Donald Trump a dictator when he passed a whole bunch of executive orders and used them instead of going through the correct procedure through the Congress to change the law. So, and now he's doing exactly the same thing. So does that make him a dictator?
I mean, that's kind of a pot kettle kind of situation, because I mean, we've seen that since, I mean, really, okay, within my political lifetime, or being able to pay attention to them reasonably, I mean, since the Bush administrations, there have been policies put into place. That's why there are all these court challenges that end up going with them. And I mean, MPP on its own was, a executive branch policy, which is why it ended up going to the Supreme Court. The decisions made on that, and kind of the ultimate decision coming out about it, that yes, this is a foreign policy standpoint, and therefore changeable by the administration without, say, congressional oversight, because it's not a law.
It's a big circle, isn't it? Okay, I'm gonna change subject here.
Fair enough.
I'm gonna go to January 6th. As you know, there's always two sides to the story. Okay, and I would recommend, if for those people out there that are really interested in finding out what happened at January 6th, there's two things they need to look at. Tomorrow, Glenn Beck is going to have a podcast out with a guy that does Revolver News, and he has been investigating this since it happened, January 6th, and you'll find out a lot of things, or some of this stuff may have been orchestrated. Also, the second place is with Epoch Times. They're a pretty good news outlet, and a guy named Joshua Phillips. He's a investigative reporter, and he runs a host of thing called Crossroads, and it's the real story of January 6th. And you'll get a lot of information there, and you'll find out that the cops, the policemen that were at the Capitol at the time, they were not playing friendly even before the barricades were tore down. They were throwing flashbang grenades out into the crowds. That's why you had people out there having heart attacks in the middle of the crowd. So if people are interested and they want to find out the truth and look at the other side and not just take one side, because I'm going to tell you the truth, NBC, ABC, CBS, they've been infiltrated by the FBI and CIA, and that has been proven through the Twitter files. Okay, and all the way back, even before that, they had an operation called Mockingbird, which Church, his name, when he was a senator, Senator Church, investigated way back in the 1970s. And they've been at it. They've been at it all. That's what they do. They're paid spies, and they've been trying to control the United States for a long time. And that's the reason why they didn't even release all the information on the JFK assassination. If you read that, it's because it said it would hurt our military and our spy agencies. If they got all the information out, people would find out something bad about them. So anyway, that's my spiel. Again, check out, and Glenn Beck, you can get it easily. All you got to do is
of course.
The Blaze Radio podcast on the internet, and you can hear it. You don't have to pay for it. Epic Times you may have to pay for. I don't know if they're running a free one. They were running a free one about the real January 6th documentary, but at one time. But anyway, those are two sides. That's the other side, and if you want to look at it, to be up to date. Well, thank you, Andrew, for taking my call.
Yeah, sure thing.
Have a good day.
Thank you for the point of the call. You have a good weekend there as well. All right. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take that next break right now. We got more calls coming in, more comments being discussed here, including RJ clarifying Church Committee 1975. That sounds about right. I've done a little bit on that, but it doesn't usually come up in the current event stuff that we're dealing with here. But in the meantime, we're going to go and take that break and back on the phone lines back after this break. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. President Biden will be in El Paso on Sunday, and the White House today said he plans to meet with local leaders and see firsthand how the community is responding to a record number of migrants arriving at the border. The White House still hasn't said exactly what President Biden plans to do and see while he's in El Paso. This will be his first visit to El Paso since taking office. His stop comes before a scheduled visit to Mexico City, where he will attend a summit. A bipartisan group of senators will tour El Paso on Monday. That includes Texas Senator John Cornyn and Arizona Senators Kyrsten Sinema and Mark Kelly, along with several other Republicans and Democrats. They will also meet with local leaders. Meantime, the city of El Paso has closed its emergency migrant shelter that had been set up at the convention center. Deputy City Manager Mario D'Agostino said the shelter was no longer needed due to a drop in migrants being released from federal custody. That emergency shelter opened on December 23rd at the convention center when the borderland was facing dangerously cold temperatures. The city also plans to close an emergency shelter that had been set up at a vacant middle school in central El Paso. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
In the East Valley, an earlier crash on Memorial Highway northbound after Pebble Hills is blocking the on-ramp. Vista del Sol eastbound at Joe Battle, a crash there has a truck blocking the right lane. I-10 westbound Hawkins to the Patriots, a 10-minute delay, all bumper to bumper. Slow traffic on Montana Avenue with 20-minute delays from Hawkins out to Zaragoza. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brad Montgomery. It looks like we'll see a cold one for tonight, lows dropping down into the 20s and 30s. This is a weak front pushes through, and we're not going to see the upper 60s to lower 70s for the weekend. Still a very nice weekend, but we're going to see more lower to mid 60s, about 61 degrees on your Saturday with about a 10% chance of a shower. And for your Sunday, partly cloudy skies and dry with a high around 63. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive Commercial Insurance can protect your small business with over 30 coverage options, an easy-to-use mobile app, personalized discounts, and more. Get a quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
The Where Were You in 92 podcast brings you back to the year of big butt anthems, achy breaky hearts, and grunge. Take an audio trip back in time to relive the wildest, most eclectic, and controversial 12 months in music through interviews with critics, industry bigwigs, and the artists themselves.
Take me back to a magical time when music was magic, and I had completely burned that to the ground.
Listen to Where Were You in 92 on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Why do you buckle up when you get in your truck? Maybe you do it to get home safely to your loved ones, or because you take your job as a professional driver seriously, or because you want to follow the law to stay safe. Remember, it doesn't matter how long you've been driving, or even if it's a quick trip. Wear your seatbelt to stay safe on the road. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. That's www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. And remember to buckle up when you get behind the wheel. Paid for by FMCSA.
Progressive Commercial Insurance flexes to fit your business needs, from quick repairs to adjustable coverages and even payment options. Progressive Commercial makes it easy to get what you need. Quote today in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. This report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
Weather and traffic info. You need it? We have it. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed. News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. We're getting towards the end of this program here, but had someone drop off the line, so if you do want to get on the phone line, the number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Did have another comment come in during the break as well about January 6th, the committee of it. Yeah, this is the second anniversary of it, which is why I guess I'm so kind of frustrated about it, because you would think that beyond, I mean, people who were doing literally bad acts and causing destruction in the nation's capital obviously deserve to be prosecuted for it. But the questions that come up about it is why it deserves a full, like, however you end up going into this, whether that you, honestly, just whatever your perspective is on January 6th, it ends up, I think, supporting the idea of doing a full investigation and not just very much hearings that were very much poised towards the, well, essentially the court of public affairs. And yes, very much focused on the former presidents, though. Again, I got to wonder about the efficient, if that's truly the end goal and the evidence that supports it, why go about it that way is the question I keep coming back with here. But other questions do come up here. And you know what? Let's, as much as, again, don't feel the need to repeat the whole don't feed the trolls, but at a certain point, I do reach a limit. So Eric McNabb saying, Polk flatly denies asylum seekers and all the outside money pouring into the county help small businesses here. He lies about immigration issues. Literally prove it, my dude. If you are going to say that refugee situations are good for small business, like, come at anything. There was literally an article, we talked about this last week, coming from an MSU professor about, sure, there may be long-term economic benefits, like nationally, but definitely puts a lot of strain on locally. So there's literally evidence against what you are saying. But otherwise, you know what? Come at me. You say you've got screenshots, do it. You say you've got timestamps. Name something that I have lied about when it comes to immigration, whether it be the stats, the situations, and let's make a clarification here. You not liking what I'm saying does not count as lying. There's plenty of things that I talk about that I don't like to have to talk about, but it's reality. So if you're just going to deny reality that having a massive refugee situation on our streets is, I mean, we're not talking about tourism, my dude. So saying that, oh no, this is fine. I'm sure that the McDonald's is seeing plenty of business and therefore it's good for us. Like we're talking about food handouts happening. Like just at least check in with reality. Go outside, touch grass once in a while. That's all I'm really asking. But otherwise, yeah, prove it. Otherwise, if you're literally just here to troll, you are going to be removed flat out. End of it. Anyway, let's go ahead and get back to those phone lines now. We have a call on the line here from Reese in Isleta. Reese, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Good afternoon. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure thing. What's on your mind?
Andrew, yesterday, I'm on the road a lot. So yesterday on NPR, I heard President Biden come on and explain what he's doing about the situation here, this humanitarian situation. How Vice President Harris is going down to Central American countries and doing that hard work that has to be done. And I say that's one of the reasons why we probably have to slow down. I called and talked to you earlier a couple of weeks ago about a point that Raul had made in the Northeast about the media. I wanted to throw a little spill at you the way that our friends on the other side like to come up with conspiracy theories and all that stuff.
Okay.
I've often wondered, our local news, for instance, Channel 4 is being run by Fox, and you guys are KTSM, which is part of the NBC.
Let me stop you right there real quick, because
like a little,
hold up real quick. Just our call letters are KTSM, because you go back in history, it was Tri-State Media, started out as radio, then got FM, and then went TV. But we are a different entity, literally owned by different companies than KTSM TV, News Channel 9. They are NBC, but we are not affiliated with them in any way. Just clarify there for you.
Not. Okay, well, that's good to know. I did not know that. It left me wondering. But anyway, well, it seems that our local Channel 9 and our local Channel 4 and 7 and Fox are somehow, I don't want to, well, cahoots might be the good word, but it sure, what this lady, Barbara from the West Side, was saying earlier about how interesting, or the gentleman that likes to end his interviews with you with Brandon Slur, that really is, wow, for an older gentleman. How that's got to be embarrassing. But anyway, what my thing is okay. Let me throw the spill at you. All right, so maybe Greg Abbott and Tony Gonzalez with their Border Patrol Union, they're being sponsored by them. I often wonder why weren't these people that were sleeping on the street that crossed over not through the Border Patrol and were not registered?
Right.
Why weren't they being picked up? If you cross over illegally, you need to be picked up and returned. But these people, the people that are being processed, well, they've got their trip in front of them. They're going to go to their immigration court, see what happens there. Doesn't mean they're going to stay, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean,
all of a sudden, maybe President Biden is coming down. He's going to come see what's really happening, right? It could be this way too. No.
Okay, I get what you're saying there, that essentially there were some circumstances aware of people like, say, getting turned away from the convention center shelter that was set up because they didn't have even the temporary processing documents on hand. So that would raise a question of, okay, if you were supposed to have been gone through and processed, how did this happen then? So just to make sure I'm encapsulating what you're saying right here, that's essentially that local officials of whatever stripe it is at this point were saying that, well, the big boss is coming, therefore we got to clean up the act that we haven't been fully addressing. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Well, yeah, Abbott goes on, he's sending the National Guard, and he's sending the DPS, and just doing a lot of action that doesn't really do much, and all of a sudden here comes a president, and these guys are like, oh man, we better turn it down. Because, for instance, it's amazing how on Channel 14 and Channel 4, 7, 9 in the mornings while we're getting ready for work, never hear anything about what our Attorney General is doing, our Lieutenant Governor, all the money they waste with these bogus, lawsuits against the administration, and it gets tiresome that our money's being spent this way instead of where we really need it. Does that make sense to you, Andrew?
I get what.
Just a thought, but wow, that could be another reality, right?
I mean,
you got guys talking about the assassination of Kennedy and stuff like that on your show, which is fascinating.
Fair enough.
Right?
I mean, yeah, we definitely call that upon ourselves and call that airstrike on myself with what we do here on Friday, and we do the whole talk about whatever's on your mind kind of thing.
And I love it too, man. But hey, I'll tell you what, I'm grateful to that gentleman that talks so good about El Paso. I love El Paso. I'm from El Paso, and I love our people, how welcoming we are, and let's just the administration is working on this. Yesterday, President Biden explained it. I'm sorry people don't listen, but I have faith in this administration, and God bless our Congresswoman. God bless her. And thank you, Andrew. You have a great weekend.
No,
we'll talk sometime in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the point in the call. You have a good one there.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. I mean, okay, I can have a little bit of perspective on the other part of it here. Okay, a lot of people actually in the comments surprised about some of the media situation in town here. Yeah, so I've got a mug that is essentially like a historical relic at this point. Let me maybe during the break I'll run and grab it here. That showed that at a certain point there was ownership of all of the KTSMs in town by one local company, but what has essentially happened in the modern era of media that essentially there is ownership of radio stations by largest groups, iHeart Radio, of which of course we are one. TV stations there's several other large ones out there. Some of that mentioned actually RJ pretty well put it. Channel 9 is Nexstar, and 4 and 14 are owned by Sinclair. Their affiliations are different. And then Channel 7 is NPG. Of course, I previously was on air with Channel 7, so familiar with that as well. So that's part of how it is. I'm not as up on the Spanish stations. I will be freely admitting that because I don't consistently watch them because my Spanish isn't quite that good. But in any case, that's how at least some of the organization is done in town. 4 and 14, if y'all didn't know, hopefully I'm not blowing anyone's mind or ruining anyone's perception out there. They're out of the same building over there on Alto Mesa, different newsroom, different studios, but that's why you have that's why I have some of their reports on here. They are our news partners, and so that's why we get like the weather updates from them. So pulling back the curtain there a little bit. But they're what used to be somewhat common ownership, but pretty much all those things except for what I mentioned is co-owned are essentially all separate nowadays. In any case, the way it kind of works when it comes down to the local news part of it is kind of what we do as well. I mean, it's not exactly a carbon copy, but the idea of that we trust our national news partners to deal with what they do, and we want to focus on the local issues. So if you have a frustration with what comes out in the morning, I guess I can understand that to a bit. It's kind of part of the reason that we actually talk more about the state level issues, because that was kind of a personal frustration I've had over the years, and why we like to talk about the legislative session. We'll keep up on that. What's going on with the statewide races, what's coming out of the governor's mansion, those releases. So it's kind of why I interject that maybe a bit more, because I do appreciate having more of that out there and in the community. So if you're appreciating that, I hope you've been appreciating that if that's what you've been wanting to hear more about. But I will say local news is an interesting game. It's a constantly changing one, particularly when I was more like out and doing like the car crashes and all of that, because the demands are constantly changing. I mean, even the time I spent in TV news, it ended up starting out as all right, everything is focused on the on-air, and whatever comes online, tweets, all of that is secondary / a sideshow, to completely shifting in just the 4 years I was doing that, to then becoming nope, everything is online first, get your web story in before you're anywhere near on air, tweets, Facebook, go live, all of that constantly. So it's changing and it's different, and those don't change are going to be left behind. So part of the reason we do what we do with the on-air parts as well, and kind of deference to that. So let's go ahead and take that last break right now. I'll go and see if I can find my coffee mug I'm talking about. There's that semi-historical relic. But in any case, we'll be back after this break with more Talk El Paso. Tell we got coming up for you, what we're working on for you in the coming weeks, and a whole lot more. Stay tuned for more Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Back in a minute.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound at the Porfirio Diaz exit. That exit ramp is closed due to a collision. El Paso fires on the scene there. I-10 eastbound at Dallas. Vehicles blocking the left center lane. Stay to the right. Memorial Highway northbound after Pebble Hills. An earlier accident still blocking the entrance ramp there. And a crash involving a truck blocking the right lane. Eastbound Vista del Sol at Joe Battle. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive Commercial Insurance can protect your small business with over 30 coverage options, an easy-to-use mobile app, personalized discounts, and more. Get a quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
Hey folks, Cash Blitz scratch games from the Texas Lottery are here for you right now, and you want to check them out because you could win top prizes from $5,000 all the way up to $1 million. You can enter for a chance to win a VIP trip to an iHeartRadio event or concert. If you're listening to us, you probably might enjoy that, but also win a trip to Austin to play the $10 million Cash Blitz Challenge and attend the iHeart Country Festival. Play today and be sure to visit TexasLottery.com for all the details.
Hey, Texas! This time of year is all about coming together and enjoying time-honored holiday traditions or starting your own. This winter, make sure your fellow Texans, especially those with a serious mental health condition, know how to stay informed and protected from increased COVID-19 risks associated with serious mental illness. Getting vaccinated is pro-Texan protection against COVID-19. Visit www.vaccines.gov/search to find a vaccine provider near you.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T?
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The patented key ingredient is something called Testofen, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text HUNK to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text HUNK to 42424. That's HUNK to 42424.
City streets or small towns, everyone deserves a clean, green community. We are Keep America Beautiful, the nonprofit working to end littering, improve recycling, and beautify communities. Let's do beautiful things. Visit KAB.org.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. I want to tell you a little bit more about what we got coming up for you next week. Of course, more discussion about the things that affect us here in the borderland, including checking out with our other news reporting outlets, including El Paso Inc. Checking in with them next week. That's I usually do it the first Tuesday of the month, but that was also like the first show back. So, anyways, we're doing that next week, and more discussion about maybe some of these immigration policies. A lot of digestion being done by advocates, groups, and those interested in think tanks in that space. So more on that. And of course, the legislative session gets kicked off on Tuesday. It'll be probably a little while before we see substantive things coming out, floor debates, etc. But we'll be keeping an eye on that and continue talking with our legislative delegation. Also, some suggestions that you all have made that we'll be working on, including new Texas laws, as well as gun laws, things like that. Whole lot more to come for you. And of course, just as a reminder, be sure to tune into the El Paso History Radio Show, back with new episodes tomorrow here on News Radio 690 KTSM. This week, talking with the author of a book out now, Educating the Enemy, talking about what happened with the kids and children that came over as part of Operation Paperclip, that right in our area for several years, those that were essentially pulled out of the former Nazi Germany and kind of kick-started the space race and missile development program in this country, and what that kind of revealed about, aspects of our education system at the time. So that'll be tomorrow, 10 to noon, here on News Radio 690 KTSM. But in the meantime, got to go ahead and end the show, therefore, because we are out of time. So, again, I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. We'll be back next week, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. So, in the meantime, until then, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you next week.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound at the Porfirio Diaz exit. That exit ramp is closed due to a collision. El Paso Fire's on the scene there. I-10 eastbound at Dallas. Vehicles blocking the left center lane. Stay to the right. Memorial Highway northbound after Pebble